Welcome, everybody. This is the first episode of this channel, and I'm excited. How are you, Fernando?
I'm doing good, Toy. Very excited to initiate this new adventure on YouTube. A little bit about us first. Toy, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I'll talk quickly of the idea of this channel because it's very connected of what you and I do. So basically, I met Fernando through the EV industry, and we'll talk about it in a second. And over the years, we've become good friends. We've had great conversations on many topics of technology, politics, and fixing the world problems. and so we thought we could pick some select topics and create this channel. So Fernando and I met a while back in a company called Byton. However, Fernando, if you remember though, I was this close of bringing you into Faraday. So I think that was the first time we actually spoke, right? I think I was looking for an MVH expert, and I reached out. I was interviewing. You jumped out. I was going to make an offer, but that's when Faraday was going downhill. So you escaped the first bankruptcy.
That's right. So you mentioned there noise and vibration, NVH, right? So for many years, personally, I've been doing this first in traditional internal combustion engine vehicles, and later, many years ago, transitioning into EVs. So back in the day, Toy, when we met, we were doing these for a company called Byton. This is when we met. But you touched on a very interesting thing. Faraday Future, still around. Many people might know Faraday Future. They might not know Byton. But Faraday Future at the beginning, Toy, if you can tell us a little bit about how was it, what
Yeah,
happened,
sure.
how it started.
Yeah, it was an exciting time. And actually, I didn't answer your question. My background, same thing, automotive, dating all the way back to 1999, a long time ago. Uh, Many years I was on the vehicle side, durability, some MVH, then indirectly with crash, and many years doing that. And eventually, I did a couple of years in powertrain, still ICE vehicles. And then I got to Faraday, and Faraday, at that moment in time, Fernando, I don't know if I ever told you that I had an offer from Boeing to go from contractor to direct. And at the same time, Lucid reached out, almost they were going to make an offer. And then Faraday came out of the blue, made an offer, right? So it was very exciting because it was a billionaire with crazy, not crazy, but very big dreams. Not just automotive, but televisions. He wanted to integrate technology into a vehicle. And it was exciting, Fernando. There were a lot of ex-Teslas there. There were people from Michigan, people from other industries, and basically that's how at the moment in time I was managing durability and MVH, and that's when I reached out to you because I needed more talent on the MVH side.
So, and I'm flashing here just a number of EV players by their symbol. So you were talking about Faraday Future here on the top right. But of course, we have Tesla. Tesla is the ultra successful, ultra mainstream brand where probably everything started to take off back in the day here in California. So when we met, we were in this company called Byton, right? That was
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say a collaboration, but a Chinese spin-off in the US, so primarily being capital from China, but with most of the engineering in the Bay Area in California. So
Mm-hmm.
2017, 2018, when they brought designers and management from BMW in Germany. And it's a good segue, Toy, on why California became a strong player as opposed to Michigan. But putting it in context, just for everyone, right? Tesla started back in the day acquiring a plant from GM, an old plant from GM and retooling that plant. So Tesla, in a way, was its fate was cemented by that acquisition of an old GM plant. But later,
Right.
with the expansion of software and other technologies in Palo Alto, it just boomed, right? So, Toy, what are your thoughts on why California became this central player?
That's a great question, Fernando. And if you think about it, automotive is very capital intensive, right? And you turn to burn money quickly for a startup. So then it's a valid question. Why would you go to a very expensive state with high taxes, right? And so just a little history for the audience. Tesla actually started in Michigan. Actually, they had dreams of of developing the Model S in Michigan. And they spent almost a whole year, I believe. And at some point they decided, nope, let's close shop. Let's go to California. And even though the talent pool at the moment was in Michigan, right, after decades of automotive there. So the big question, Fernando, that you were asking, why California? One of the big reasons was the vision of let's go beyond electrification, right? Let's go not just an automotive company, but a vehicle that is connected, connectivity, a vehicle that has state-of-the-art user interface. So the whole electrical architecture. So there was a strong pull to be close to Silicon Valley because that's where the technology was. And not only that, the culture, right? The culture of high technology. So I think that was one of the big drivers, Fernando.
And you touch on a very good point, right? So like right now, everyone associates Tesla with future plans for high tech. Even Elon and other people within Tesla have said that they don't believe to be just an automotive company. They are also considering themselves to be a technology company outside of the automotive space. Um, to your point, back in the day, California was already a powerhouse in many of these information technology, in the forefront of these technologies. So we don't know to what extent Tesla thought it's going to be something very advanced in the future, but certainly they had a different vision compared to the traditional automakers of having this vehicle being hyper connected. And from that point of view, California made sense despite the high cost. Looking back, I think it was a decision that paid off for Tesla. But like you're saying, so many players have tried to do the same
Mhm.
and proven to be a very, very difficult thing to do. Not only because California, just in general, because it's a very capital intensive business.
Correct. And it's interesting. I just noticed something here, Fernando, that's interesting. If you see Karma, they kind of came from what used to be Fisker, right? And then Fisker reappeared. And as we all know, nowadays there are a lot of Tesla lovers, there are a lot of Tesla haters. And what a lot of people don't know is that back in the day, there was no guarantee that Tesla was going to succeed. They were actually competing with Fisker, and there was a third player. I don't remember the name. And but at the moment, batteries were too expensive, right? It was not economical to buy an EV, and Tesla almost went out of business 2 or 3 times. However, out of the three, Tesla barely won, and then they had some of the luck of first mover advantage, right? And then the rest is history. So I think historically, that's an interesting point right there.
So to your point, right, how capital intensive and how many players try uh, to make it. I believe, Toy, you might have your own opinion, but of course, Tesla being the head of the spear on this, then later Faraday Future became one of the big ones after Tesla. Many people have heard probably the Tesla killer phrase, right? So many of them pitch themselves as we're going to be competing the Tesla and we are going to take the throne out of Tesla. I think now the story is different, right? The story has become very different for some of these players as opposed to taking out of Tesla, just contributing to the overall automotive industry beyond competing with Tesla. So in a way, has been expanding the options that exist out there for customers. But what we see here is how many started trying to compete with Tesla, how many of them have been unsuccessful, right? So you and me, we can talk about how being now at Rivian, how capital intensive the business is, and how it was also for Tesla at the very beginning. But they were able to turn the tide, which is the hope of many of these companies right now.
Correct, correct. And just to give the audience some ideas, just building a factory, it's between $500 million for a small operation, like low volume. But if you want like high volume in the 200,000 range, you're talking 2 billion to 5 billion. That's a tremendous amount of money for a startup. So that gives you an idea. You got engineering development costs, right? You got a factory cost, and then you got a plan for the second vehicle, right? Everybody thinks of the first vehicle.
Right.
You start running out of money. You don't have the sales and the profit to support the second vehicle. So it's so hard, right, Fernando? It's so hard to survive as a startup, as an automotive company.
And you have a great point. Everyone follow the Tesla playbook, which is the first vehicle that you bring to the market is a vehicle that is expensive. All the capacity, all the capability, all the widgets, all the gadgets, everything is brought to the market first. So the first vehicle for many of these companies, if you guys think about Lucid, Rivian, VinFast, Polestar, even Fisker and Far the Future, they were targeting a very high-end portion of the market, right on the plus $100,000 per car market. And then later with the hope that by creating some momentum, you could switch into a smaller, cheaper, probably a little bit less refined with all the lessons learned from the first vehicle, and then have a second vehicle, which could potentially turn the tide and make it profitable, right? So that is the case even for established automakers. We see here Ford, even Ford being a traditional automaker with much more reach and install capacity compared to the rest, still struggling to turn the tide into having a profitable EV. But even Ford, Toy, to your point of starting in Michigan and moving to California, is something that Ford decided later on, right, to have development centers here in Long Beach, in Irvine, precisely for the technology portion.
Correct, Fernando. I wonder what the future holds, right? We've seen a lot of these companies some of them went bankrupt. Some of them are not even listed here, right? Some of the companies that failed. Some are barely surviving. A quick anecdote, Fernando. I don't know if I ever told you in Faraday, I would get into meetings and we would be discussing hundreds of thousands of vehicle sales was the goal. But then as you start development, you start hearing the other stories of this is a luxury vehicle. The rear seat had like a zero gravity seat with a lot of leg room because very high-end customers would have a chauffeur to drive them in the Faraday vehicle.
Right.
But you could see a discrepancy in vision of a company, right? You wanted to do $150,000 to $250,000 vehicle. And on the other side, you're thinking you're going to do a high volume of 200,000. So incompatible goals, right? And sometimes you get caught in the hype as a company, right? And that's part of your downfall.
Great point, Toy, because the EVs had to break the stigma, I would say, right? 15, 20 years ago, people would associate EVs with golf carts. So if we think about the strategy from Tesla was always to prove that EVs could be exciting and fun. So looking back at the Tesla strategy with the Roadster, back in 2010 was
Mhm.
a sports car, super fast, built on top of the Lotus chassis to prove precisely that point, right? That EVs could be something exciting, something fast, something that didn't have to be boring and didn't have to be aesthetically unpleasant. So there was a big push to change the mentality on EVs. And here we are flashing the way the EV adoption has changed in some of these countries and how exponential it looks, especially for China. So Toy, maybe thinking back that we were in Byton, looking at this chart, what comes to your mind?
You know, I think I've drank the Kool-Aid every single startup. I think being a techno optimist, I think I always get into the hype. So in Faraday, even though the numbers didn't seem quite real, I actually kind of bought into it initially. And to your question in Byton, I thought we had a great product, right, Fernando? The SUV was good looking. The electrical infrastructure, the GUI was phenomenal, and the target price was 45,000, 50,000. So back then, I thought we were going to succeed, but we already were getting glimpses of China and the number of companies that existed in China, the growth in China, because we have that exposure with our Chinese colleagues, right? So in my mind, Fernando, I kind of knew that China was going to succeed, but I did not visualize that they were going to dominate, right? They would dominate. And just quickly for the audience, these are 2021 sales. I recently saw some numbers where China vehicle production per year is 30 million vehicles per year. And they've hit the 50% mark, which is a phenomenal number. So that number is 15 million EV plus plug-in electric.
Impressive. And so we're putting here other markets. Of course, 2021, the numbers have changed significantly ever since. But the trend is it's constant, right? China dominating the global market compared to other countries. And I would like to discuss more about it, probably in a subsequent episode, Toy. We can
Mhm.
bring why we think China has dominated this
Correct.
market compared to others. But for now, Toy, I think just want to say that has been a great conversation. Uh, would like to invite our viewers to subscribe. Toy, what is it that we could expect in other episodes, in other videos in our channel?
Great question, Fernando. I think obviously you and I have conversations of 50 different topics as we try to solve the world. But for this channel in particular, I think it's going to be a very tech related channel. For you, for the audience, we're going to try to bring a different twist to automotive. There are many channels on automotive and how cool cars are. But I think Fernando and I have a lot of stories of being part of that development of automotive. We've got a lot of contacts. Some of them are ex-Teslas that worked in the Model S. Some of them are part of these companies that failed. So I think, Fernando, we're hoping to maybe every fourth or fifth episode bring a guest that's been part of this great evolution and try to give the audience a flavor within these companies.
Great point, because most of the people you listen to on YouTube, right, are outsiders, which are very passionate about the EV industry, but it's so uncommon to have someone that has worked so many years, probably Toy, you and me combined more than maybe 20, 25, even 30 years in the automotive industry. More than half of that number on EV development, right? From structures to batteries to chassis systems to everything in between. So it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm excited, inviting everyone to subscribe to our journey. And we'll bring, like Toy mentioned, right, experts in the industry from many companies, right, that can talk about within how was the development, how were the challenges, what was happening, the crazy stories with people that knew Elon personally, right,
Mm-hmm.
working in the early days of Tesla development. Um,
I
But
was
yeah,
thinking also, Fernando, that we're not going to bias it pro EVs. Like I also have a lot of colleagues that don't think EVs will succeed in North America. So we can have a couple that with differing viewpoints, which is fine. Uh, Also, Fernando, I think one topic for this channel will be you and I are both from Mexico. You and I have had the opportunity to work with a lot of international groups, and we know automotive is made up of great talent from countries like India, China, Pakistan, Romania, UK, Germany. So I think part of the flavor of this channel will also be multicultural, and how people from all over the world come in and develop a vehicle. So
and the different philosophies, right, about approaching the same challenge of mobility in general, not only electrifications, but mobility. So I like it, Toy. So we invite everyone, if you reach this point of the channel, to subscribe, of course, and just wait for more of our content. It's going to be pretty interesting.
right, Fernando, we'll talk again. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Toy. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.